Happy Camper Radio starts in 3, 2, 1. It's great to be back with you again. Hello, everyone. I'm Skip. I am a happy camper, and this is the Happy Camper Radio Show, episode 155. How many of you travel a long distance to get to your camping destination? And I mean long distance, it's going to take you more than a day to reach your campground. You leave out on a Thursday, you arrive on a Friday. Now, if you're that type of a traveler, and you have one particular campground in mind, chances are there is something very majestic about that campground or that area that's going to lure you in to the point that it's going to take you more than a day to get there. If you're one of those travelers, where do you spend the night? Do you check into a motel? Do you find a public or a private campground along the way where you've perhaps made a reservation? Or do you camp out at a public rest area along the interstate? Not one of the wisest things to do, but some people do it. Does it make sense? Is it legal? We're going to be talking about that on the show today, so stick around. As always, the shows here at Happy Camper Radio are very informative, and I love having you along. Our phone number here at the Happy Camper Radio Show is 404-537-2267. That's 404-537-CAMP. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to Circles on Google+, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to www.happycamperradio.com. You'll find all of our social media icons right there on the homepage. You click on any one of them, you'll connect right up with us. And when you follow us on social media, we give you a shout out, and that's what we're going to do right now. We've got some folks that signed up this past week, and we want to take a moment to recognize them. First of all, to Eric Syverson of Columbia, Maryland, Zvika Bar-Chame of Coupland, Washington. They like us on Facebook. To the fine folks over at Tank Tire in Florida, Rinse Kit in the UK, Campers and Gear Live Outdoors, James Brotmarkle of Cumberland, Maryland, and Janelle Perro. They all follow us on Twitter, and we want to say hello to Jason Morgan of Morgantown, West Virginia. He added us to Circles this past week on Google+. Thank you all so very much for joining us. Glad to have you on board, and more importantly, thank you for being a part of this great Happy Camper Radio family. Would you like to be a guest on the program? I would love to talk to you. Get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com. If there's something in the world of camping that you'd like to talk about, I'd love to have you on the show. What's the camping weather been like in your area lately? If you live in the Southeast, we can talk about the unbearably hot temperatures that we've had this summer. My electric bill at home is through the roof. I have never seen and paid some of the enormous electric bills because we've got the air conditioning running almost around the clock. But that's what happens. Sometimes, that's exactly what you're going to have to put up with. And this is one of those years. It is also not, to me anyway, a good time to go primitive camping. I cannot see going out somewhere, setting up my tent, and sleeping in a sweatbox. It's not going to work. You know as I know that I am a long-time fall and winter-time camper. I love the cooler temperatures, and fall was just around the corner. Somebody here at the house was just saying, hey, it's football season. Yeah, okay, well, when you start planning for football season, I start planning for camping. But, if you're one of those type of individuals where you don't want to sit at home, now maybe the hot temperatures are not the issue to you. Maybe you're dealing with a lot of rain. I know the folks out on the West Coast would surely love some rain right about now. But nobody wants to stay holed up inside the house when you have some available time that you could go camping. But if you're in one of these situations that you just have nowhere to go, consider a camping and RV show that you can take the family to somewhere in your area. pick up the newspaper, pick up your iPhone, your iPad, or however you do your research, and see if there is a camping and RV show somewhere near you within reasonable driving distance. Here in Georgia, we have the Georgia Camping and RV Show coming to our area again, this time September 23rd through the 25th, 2016, and it's going to be held this time at the Cobb Galleria. And if you want to go take a look at some great travel trailers, some fifth wheels, some motorhomes, take an opportunity to meet some wonderful individuals, campers just like you, great people to be around. That's something you should consider. Again, the Georgia Camping and RV Show, for anybody traveling through Georgia or anybody that lives in the North Georgia area, consider it, the Cobb Galleria, September 23rd through the 25th of 2016. But again, check out some of the ones in your particular area. If you can't get out now to do some serious camping, consider taking the family out. Don't sit around at home. Don't be looking at the TV. Don't be worried about mowing the lawn or, get to that another day. But just take the family out and take in the sights and sounds at some of these camping and RV shows. All right, folks, we're going to talk today about rest stop camping. I don't even like the sounds of that. But you know that there are going to be some folks who use the rest stop for the purposes of rest. And they're probably taking advantage of more rest than they really should at these rest stops. If you've ever traveled the interstate for any long-distance travel, chances are you've come across more than a dozen or so public rest areas. They're convenient, they're comfortable, they're a great place to stop to get up and stretch your legs, to use the facilities, maybe make a phone call, and especially if you're traveling with young kids, you definitely want to take some time to get up and let them stretch. I know how important it is and how exciting it is for you to reach your camping destination. You can't get there fast enough. But if you're a careful planner, if you have everything laid out ahead of time, you know what time you're going to get on the road. You know what time you're going to reach that destination. You know when you're going to stop for the night. Everything should be planned accordingly, and you'll have less stress to deal with. Camping is not about stress. It should not be. But, some people, they do plan things at the very last minute, and when you're in a rush, yes, that adrenaline starts rolling, the stress builds up. You don't want that. So take the time anytime you go camping to plan ahead, carefully plan ahead, and you'll be all right. Now, campers in both short and long-distance travel are known to visit these rest areas. For me, a short-distance camping trip is one that's 100 miles or less from home. That it takes me about 3 hours to get there, but I am not one who normally will travel a very long distance or have to spend the night somewhere just to reach one particular campground. If I do, I'm going to make sure that I stop and check in at either one, a motel. I'm not crazy about that, but I would much rather sleep at a public or a private campground somewhere along the way that I made some reservations that I knew I was going to arrive at a certain period of time. And maybe I'm not going to unload everything just for the night. And if I do plan on spending the night at a public or a private campground, chances are I'm going to spend 2 nights or maybe even 3. Because if I have to break out that gear, if I have to pitch the tent, if I have to take my cot and put it together, lay out the sleeping bags, bring out my recliner, all the kitchen gear, all the food and everything, I'm not going to do that for a simple overnight stay. Granted, I would much prefer spending the night at a campground, but if I'm only going to be back on the road again in 8 hours, then yes, I will check in at a motel overnight. I will not stay at a public rest stop anywhere on any interstate in any state. Now, I'm not saying that for the purposes of making people think that these rest stops are unsafe. But the truth of the matter is they are not designed for camping purposes. If you ever visited a public rest stop anytime in the overnight hours, especially overnight, chances are you're going to see several large trucks parked there with their engines running. Now, truckers should never be considered campers. I don't consider them campers. In fact, my hat's off to these guys. I know you're traveling down the interstate, you see hundreds of them on the road. These truckers spend their lives on the road. And most likely, when it's time for them to catch a little bit of sleep, and I don't know how much sleep they're required to have, but chances are they're going to be parked for the night at one of these public rest stops along the interstate. And when they're doing that, chances are they're getting the rest that they need, and they're going to be back on the road in a matter of hours. And chances are they're going to have a very long distance to travel again before it's time for them to stop. That's why they call them over-the-road truckers. They visit state to state. They may be traveling hundreds and hundreds of miles delivering goods. And we don't often think about that, do we? Where would we be without our truckers today? How would goods and services be moved across state lines? So yes, these guys are going to need their rest, and most likely they're going to be getting that rest at a public rest stop area along the interstate. You may ask yourself, why don't they check into a hotel like we have to? Well, most hotels are not going to have the parking spaces they need for truckers to check in. And of course, this is going to be money out of their pocket if they have to use a motel. And, I'm sure they would like to sleep in a comfortable bed, and they would like to get up and have a shower, sit down and have breakfast. But that's not the industry that they're in. And a lot of these truckers, they have to have their goods and services delivered by a certain time. So they're going to be taking the time to take it easy. Rest stops are a very convenient place to stop and get some rest before continuing a journey. But are they safe locations for an overnight stay? Are they legal? We're going to take a look at some of those questions today here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. Now, your typical rest stop, they're funded and maintained through public tax dollars. I think they're very well spent, too, because just about every rest stop I have ever been to on the interstate, they provide very clean restroom facilities. And any time of the day or night, they're going to be in use. There are going to be some people traveling just like you that may stop at these restroom facilities, say maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And it's not uncommon for people just like yourself to stop there and use the facilities and get out and stretch. It's also good for the kids, too. If you're not going to be checked into a hotel, if you're not going to be camping out at a campground overnight, and you're making a long-distance trip, I say definitely use every facility you can find along the interstate. Some are strategically placed. I don't know how many miles. Some you might find one every 50 miles, maybe every 100 miles. But, if you come across one, get up and get out and stretch. I don't care if the kids even need to use the restroom facilities. You don't really need to be cooped up inside your vehicle. And if you're the driver, you're going to need to get up and stretch too. So get out and do that. The ones that I really enjoy stopping at, and I think most everybody can agree with me on this, is your information centers. You're going to find them especially just across a state border. They're very well equipped. There are a lot of people there. They've got a lot of useful information. You may even find some brochures at the information centers for local campgrounds in that area. If you're looking to pass through that area sometime again, maybe on the way home, and you want to stop at a campground to check in for the night, there's a great place to find some of those campgrounds. I have seen a lot of very useful information at the information centers. You can even get road maps. I don't know how many people use those anymore. Everybody has GPS or, some sort of electronic technology to help get them to their destination. But yes, you can generally pick up a complimentary road map of the state when you visit the information center. Some of these restroom facilities are, like I said, they're very well equipped and very well taken care of. But some facilities also have vending machines, even coffee for early morning travelers. Are you a coffee drinker? I'm an overnight person. Believe me, I drink a lot of coffee, and if I was traveling overnight and stopping at a rest stop, I would greatly appreciate a nice hot cup of coffee. It really comes in handy. Now, here's why campers may choose a rest stop. They may only be planning to stop for a few hours. Nothing wrong with that. If you're traveling and you're looking for the convenience of parking in a restroom facility, that would be the place to be, rather than pull off the side of the road on the interstate somewhere. I would consider a rest stop to be a safe place to be. Now, many of them are very well lit and very maintained, but I think the primary reason a camper may choose a rest stop facility is the purpose of saving money. After all, you're planning on going to a campground that is more than a day away, and you really don't want to spend a whole lot of money than you're already planning to spend. So if you've got a family of 4 and you're going to be checking into a hotel room, depending upon the conveniences and amenities you're looking for, you may end up spending $100, $200. So why would you want to do that when you can park it for the night at a rest stop? Okay, well, here's some things you might want to consider before making an overnight stay. Tent camping at most, if not all, rest stop areas is prohibited. Have you ever pulled into a public rest stop and found a tent pitched somewhere or a group of tents? You may have seen some RVs, you may have seen some fifth wheels, some motorhomes, but have you ever pulled in there and found someone had pitched a tent for the night? They're not permitted, okay? I don't think in any state, all 50 states, you will ever find a public rest area that's going to allow you to pitch a tent and set up camp. Now, some rest stops will even post signs indicating that camping is prohibited. Have you seen those before? They're like a little blue sign. It's got a tent in the center of it and a round circle and the hash mark right through the center. You're not allowed to camp. But still, you may have some people with motorhomes and RVs and fifth wheels that may park for the night. I have never sat there and monitored or even concerned myself with how long a person stays at a public rest area. Have I ever stopped and kicked my head back for a little bit because I was too tired to drive? Yes, I have. Did I feel comfortable? Did I get a good night's sleep? No. Here's something you need to put in the back of your head before you even travel. A lot of traffic passes through those rest areas any time of the day or night. You're going to have many trucks that are going to be idling throughout the night, depending upon what time of the season it is. If it's summertime, they're going to be running their air conditioning. If it's wintertime, they're going to be pumping heat into their cab. So yes, those trucks are going to be running. They're going to be idling. And there's going to be several of them, and they're going to be singing a tune, even if it's way on the other side of the restroom facility. You're going to have the sounds of doors opening and closing, people talking, kids screaming. If anybody travels with animals, dogs, chances are they're going to get out and they're going to be using the facility themselves, and they're going to be barking. You're not going to get a good night's sleep. Here's something else you need to ask yourself, too. Is it safe to sleep at a rest stop, even in your vehicle? For the most part, I would say yes, but you just never know. Is your camping gear in an open trailer? Do you have one of those pull-along trailers like I have? I upgraded mine recently. I had a little 8-foot one. Mine is like 12 foot long now. I love it. I can carry firewood. I can carry all kind of stuff with me. And I got, plenty of room to do that, but everything is out in the open. Maybe you have a pickup truck with a little 6-foot bed on the back of them. I see these pickup trucks today. They've got 4 doors there, 4-seater. And my mouth just waters every time I see one of those. But am I going to part with my truck that I've had for more than 20 years? Hey, it's paid off. I don't have those insurance payments. I don't have those high insurance payments. I don't have the loan payments, anything like that anymore. And my truck is running just fine. So now I'm going to keep it. All right. But still, I have an open bed in my pickup truck. If I'm parked in one of those rest stop areas and I kick my head back and I have all of that valuable gear in the back of my truck, am I going to sleep comfortably knowing that all of that gear is going to be there when I wake up? Is there a possibility, are people in this world that cruel that they would actually steal from somebody out of their truck while they're sleeping? You just never know who is coming and going through those public rest stop area. You just don't know. You never know when thieves may target unsuspecting travelers. The problem with interstate rest stops, folks, they're quick access to any interstate. People get in there, they can get out quickly, and it's an easy getaway for crooks. So why would you put yourself at risk like that? Unless you're in an RV, a motorhome, or a fifth wheel, you never know who is going to be walking by and looking in on you. Because folks who are using RVs and motorhomes, they've got their blinds pulled. Their doors are locked. They're comfortable on the inside. But you're not going to be able to get the adequate rest you need for long-distance travel if you are in a passenger vehicle or a pickup truck. Have you ever sat in the front seat of your car and kicked your head back and, even if you slept for 3 or 4 hours, woke up and said, hey, I got some really good rest? No. I have one of the most comfortable recliners here at the house, and I kick back in that anytime I get home and I've worked all day or I've worked out in the yard and I need a little bit of rest. I climb right into that recliner, and yes, sometimes I fall asleep. And I want to say I wake up feeling good, but I'm not feeling as good as I would if I were sleeping in my wonderful king-size bed. So, sleeping in an upright position, I don't think is going to work. For me, have you ever tried laying across the front seat of a truck? I'm 6'4". That's not going to work either. You may doze off, but you're not going to get the rest you need. Now, here's another question. Is rest stop camping legal, even if you are camping overnight in an RV, a recreational vehicle? I did a little bit of research here, and I don't believe, from what I can tell, there is a blanket policy for all 50 states. Every state has their own set of rules and regulations. They have their own policies. So if you're looking to use a rest stop for the purpose of camping in your vehicle, and I don't consider that camping. I wish I had another terminology for it. But it's not something I think I would want to do. But before you do that, before you even consider doing something like that for the purposes of saving money, do a little research online. You know what state you're going to be going through. You know what state you're going to be stopping for the night. And you want to do a little bit of research and check out some of their regulations and policies to see if that's legal. Some states may allow travelers to spend as much as 8 hours. Others may shorten that window. But most interstate rest stops are going to be monitored by the state patrol or state troopers. Hats off to you guys, too, and gals. I know you got a tough job, especially in the world today with everything that's going on. So, yeah, I've been there, believe me. And, today, the respect that a lot of people have for law enforcement, I'm sorry to say, and I'm not saying this is the campers, but it's just the public in general. It just does not have the same respect for law enforcement today as it did like back in the days when I was, in that line of work. But they've got a tough job, and I've got to give those guys credit and the gals credit too, because they do monitor these rest stops very carefully. And when they're traveling down the interstate, most likely they're going to stop in. They're going to drive on through just to make sure everybody's okay and there's no problems. And I'm sure the travelers who may be using the rest stop facilities appreciate them coming through too. But if you are camping in your vehicle and you're stopped for the night and it is not legal for you to do that, the last thing you want is an unexpected knock on your door or window. If somebody does knock on your door or window while you are sleeping at a rest stop, let's hope it is somebody in a uniform and not somebody else, because somebody may come and ask you to roll down their window and they may say, well, I'm the manager of this facility, I'm running this facility, I'm looking out for this facility, and you never know who that individual is if they're not uniformed or they have any type of an ID with them. So you got to ask yourself, how do the truck drivers get away with it? Well, many truck drivers live their life on the road. They are not considered campers. Most interstate rest stops have designated parking areas for campers, or should I say truckers. If you ever pulled into a rest stop, chances are you're going to see a split in the middle of the road right before you get to the facility, and it's going to say truckers to the right, passenger vehicles to the left. they do keep them separated. Many of these truckers who are engaged in over-the-road travel are going to have cabs that contain sleepers. Truck drivers, again, are not considered campers. They're over-the-road truckers. They do spend a lot of time on the road, and they do make use of these facilities for the purposes of catching a little bit of rest. And that can be expected. But again, we're not truckers. We're campers. And we should not be using those facilities in the same fashion that truck drivers do. Now, again, if you're going to be traveling from home and it takes you more than a day to get there, again, if at all possible, check into a motel. If your gear is going to be safe inside your vehicle, if you're not traveling in an open bed pickup truck or you're hauling a big trailer behind you with a lot of stuff that you have already stacked in there that's going to be easy for someone to reach in and grab. Let's just say if you're driving an SUV or you're driving a minivan or a hatchback and all your gear is out of sight and out of mind, go ahead and check into a motel for the night. Factor in, add it to the budget, put a little bit more money out there, but it's going to be good for you and your family to get the adequate rest you need for the night. Wake up in the morning, get a nice shower, stop and have breakfast, feel refreshed, and move on to your camping destination. The last thing you want to do is to go camping somewhere knowing that you're going to have fun and you're all wore out before you even get there. That's not worth it, my friends. Always make it a point to plan ahead. Nobody wants a sleepy driver on the road. I don't want them next to me as I'm traveling down the road 55 miles an hour or 65, whatever the speed limit may be. If you're tired, stop and get some rest. But you should not be using a rest stop for 8 hours of rest simply because you want to save a little bit of money. It's time now for our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show.
Yep.
And this week, we are going to the state of Wisconsin, to Grant River. What a wonderful camping destination this is, folks. If you ever been to Wisconsin before, I never have, but I'll tell you what, just after looking at the reviews of this particular campground, if there's ever a chance I'm going to be traveling through this state, I'm going to make Grant River one of my destinations. It's spread along the banks of the upper Mississippi River. The Grant River Campground is located in the catfish capital of Wisconsin. It's a modern campground that offers a plethora of outdoor and recreational activities. The Grant River Recreation Area is also the site of one of Wisconsin's most famous archaeological finds. A historical burial site of the Woodland Indians was discovered along the banks, including copper instruments and jewelry that date back to more than 1,000 years. I love those campgrounds that have a little bit of history to them, yes. It's famous for fishing along the Mississippi River. It draws crowds of anglers each and every year. The most popular species in the channel is catfish, earning the city of Potosi the name Catfish Capital of Wisconsin. Other species include bluegill, walleye, crappie, northern pike, and bass. So if you're an angler, definitely bring your rod and reel, do your research ahead of time, and find out what out-of-state licensing requirements they have. Chances are you can get your out-of-state license right there online or maybe at a nearby facility. Check out their activities and amenities right there on their website. They've got many: an accessible boat ramp, of accessible sites, parking areas, picnic shelters, pit toilets, a playground, self-pay station. A whole lot of information is contained right there on the website, and I'm going to have it under the featured campground section on happycamperradio.com all week long. Great place to go camping all the way between now and October 22nd of 2016. It's Grant River in Wisconsin, and it is our featured campground of the week here on the Happy Camper Radio Show. And, of course, if you have a campground that you would like for us to feature on the program, get in touch with me, Skip, S-K-I-P, at happycamperradio.com, and make sure you include a link to the campground website. That's about all the time I have for this week's show, folks. Always looking forward to getting into the studio and talking about camping. It makes me feel good. I am ready to get out and go camping again soon. Remember, every pet deserves a loving home. I want you to do exactly like I did. Visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. You can find us online anytime at www.happycamperradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Camp Talker, add us to circles on Google+, and now subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Happy Camper Radio Show is a presentation of Skip Huber Productions. I'm Skip, I am a happy camper, and no question about it, my friends, I'm going to do my very best to make a happy camper out of you. Talk to you again soon. You're listening to Happy Camper Radio.